Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. JC here with another video on Action Taimanin. Today we're gonna check Astaroth's Infernal Threshold package. But before we start, don't forget to leave a like, share and subscribe if you enjoy the content. So, Astaroth Infernal Threshold package is actually pretty decent, but it's not the most busted thing that Astaroth can do. Just so that you know, if you already have your Undying Apophis at 5 out of 5, this is not going to replace that weapon. But it's pretty good for people who are just starting the game and manage to get the 3 copies. If you want to invest in the game, buy the skin, and get the 4th copy, that's also fine. I mean, it's not the most busted thing, but it works. And besides, it's going to help you deal with VR, and it's going to be way easier because you'll have more options thanks to this pack. So, let's check the supporter. The supporter increases characters' damage by 7% per one machine type ally, including self. Then increases characters' critical rate by 7% per one demon type ally, including self. So preferably you go with machine teams. But if you have to commit to demon, it's fine. Actually, I'm committing to demon on the build that I'm going to show you. But you should avoid using humans on your team because you're gonna lose. This goes up to 14%, so you're gonna lose 14% damage or 14% critical rate if you use one human in your team. So don't do that. Then reduces damage taken by 10% for machine type characters and demon type characters. So, well, demon type allies. That means that your team, as long as they are machine or demon, and you have this on the main, they're gonna receive 20% less damage if you max this out. So it is pretty good. It is pretty good. Free damage reduction for the team is nice. Then the active deals damage equal to 340% of attack, up to 680% of attack to surrounding enemies, and decreases their penetration by 20% for 10 seconds. So this is going to give you basically a 20% damage reduction. It is not a damage reduction buff, but rather a debuff on the enemy. You're reducing their damage. So, yeah. Or, well, their penetration if they have it. If they have it. Just so that you know. So, yeah, it is decent. But if you want to put this on the sub-slot, it's fine. You're not losing that much advantage. Honestly, there are better effects in the game. So, it's okay if you decide to put this on the sub-slot. Now, let's look at the weapon. What does this offer? So, AXXR Lost Drive increases the area of effect and duration of Hellblaze by 30%, and increases critical rate by 20% for allies within range. Each time on hitting an enemy with Hellblaze, decreases the critical rate's resistance by 30% for 0.5 seconds. So that's actually pretty decent. As long as this skill is active, you're gonna have enhanced critical rate, and that means that you're gonna be able to crit on VR. Honestly, I tested this on step 100, and it was a pretty reliable way to make a crit build, which I like. It means that newer players are going to be able to use crit builds. Yeah, it's still penalized to crit on VR, but I mean, at the beginning, players don't have that many options, and having the ability to use the crit supporters that you have, it's good. So it is worth using, at least at the beginning. So now let's check the applications. This is where it gets a little bit convoluted, but I mean, it's doable. It's doable. So depending on the enemy that you're facing, you're gonna use different characters. So let's go over here, and we're gonna select Machine and Demon. So you can equip this on any character, but if you are facing, if you want to use the weapon, you need to use Astaroth. So we're gonna take that into consideration, but you can change it. Also remember that Astaroth has a Wicked Star weapon against demons. So that's one thing to take into consideration if you want to use only the supporter. Now, what other characters have Wicked Stars that are anti-demon? Only Spinel. That's the only character on this list that is going to deal extra damage against demons. So if you're facing a demon type enemy, pairing Astaroth with Espinel is going to be pretty effective. Now, there's other options that have anti-demon weapons, but they are SRs, like Lapis, for example. Ingrid has the Christmas weapon that is anti-demon. Noah has the Christmas weapon that is anti-demon. Ragnarok shares weapons with Ingrid, so that's another anti-demon. And let's see. I think that's about it. Let me know if I'm missing someone, guys. So, now, if you are facing machine type enemies, you want to use Emily. Emily has a Wicked Star that is anti-machine, which is pretty useful. Unfortunately, that's about it. That's the only character that has anti-machine for Wicked Star. So yeah, it is a little bit difficult to build these kind of teams, but we will receive more machines in the future, so keep an eye on that. And now, another highlight is going to be Anaros, because Anaros is another character that can enhance critical for the team thanks to her limited pack weapon. Yeah, limited content, pay to win, whatever, but it is there. If you have one copy, it's gonna be useful. And the supporter, which you should get, guys, it is a pretty good supporter, is going to enhance damage when critting, so that's pretty good. So select whichever characters you want, just beware of the synergies. That's where it gets convoluted, because not only you have to take into consideration the synergies of the skills and the effects of the supporters, but also the formation. You're not going with a pure type build. These are all demon, but you could go with 2 machines, so that's something to take into consideration. And in this particular case, I am using a suppress, and a suppress. Nice. So I can go with a suppress type buff. But previously, I was using, instead of Spinel, I was testing this with Emily because I was testing last week on machine type enemies on the LWS squad. So it was not pure color nor pure type. So keep that in mind. You're gonna want to use whichever supporter formation that enhances your playstyle. Like previously with Emily in mind, all of these were doing range attacks. Like even though Anna Rose has Devour, which is melee, she was using Darkness, which is range. So I was using Themes Fighting Ninja. So it is pretty useful. In this case, I can just change to suppress and check the buffs. Damage of suppress type characters increased by 12%. Critical rate of suppress type characters increased by 12%. Critical damage of suppress type characters increased by 16%. That's actually pretty useful. Maximum HP, speed. Oh, speed is not that bad, guys. Damage of suppress type characters, damage dealt with melee attacks. Ooh, this is also pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, I mean, in this one I could go with Intruders of the Ghost Mansion, with the True Ancestral Blood, or Halloween Expedition Team. I'll go with Halloween Expedition Team because it seems to give the most value out of those. So yeah, keep an eye on the right formations according to the specifics of your team, because this is going to fluctuate a lot depending on what you do. Now, let me show you what each character do in this team. So obviously Astaroth is going to use her weapon. That means that she's going to shred the enemy's critical rate resistance, and I'm going to be able to crit, which is nice. I have, of course, Wind Magatame so that I move faster and I attack faster. Then I have whatever weapon on the subslot and whatever Magatame on the subslot. Both weapons, well, this one 4 out of 5 plus 15, and this one 5 out of 5 plus 15. As for skills, I have Hellblaze with Fire Blast to be able to attack from the distance, and Lava Serpent just in case. Honestly, there's not that many options. You could equip Phoenix Dive, yes, which is a nice utility to get closer to the enemy, but you could only use it comfortably when the enemy has the super armor down, and that's just a waste of the cooldown, so I prefer not to use that. Then here I have the Spinel because this team is pure demon. If it wasn't the case, I would be using Astaroth on the main. And, well, depending on what you have, try to go with supporters that increase damage. For example, Susun is super great because we are going to deal debuffs. Obviously, this is VR. We could also equip Mai, we could equip Stella, we could equip, where is this dark elf? Shirayuki. There's a ton of options. Yukina, so just grab whatever you can. In my case, this is damage increase for the party, damage increase for Astaroth, and critical rate increase in this case. Everything is going to crit with Astaroth, I guess. Then, stats of the custom and stat training, it was maxed out because it's Astaroth. Now, the second supporter / damage dealer is going to be Anaros. Anaros wants to use her Bouquet Sword, which is going to increase the range and pulling speed of Darkness. And allies within range of Darkness are going to have their critical rate increased by 50% and damage by 20%. It is an excellent weapon when you want a crit team. So, yeah, be sure to use this. Oh, I have to change the Magatamas. Wait a moment. I have wind, I think I have water here. Yeah, I'm gonna change water for fire. Yeah, because fire is better for the damage dealer. And I'm just going to check that. Yeah, it doesn't have anything removed. So we're gonna change these for... I love the update, guys. It is way easier to just find what you want. I'm going to put this anti-demon water Megatamas. I mean, I'm going to do basics, so that's where I'm going to get the boost, and also with the power. So both weapon 5 out of 5 plus 15, water anti-demon, and whatever Megatamas. As for skills, we use Devour. You can equip whatever you want on the second slot. I'm using Jackson Bound. You could use Fang Strength, you can use Divine Wrath, Madosen, depends on what you want. But don't equip Grudge, don't equip a counter. Especially one that locks you into place. And obviously we want Darkness to reduce the defense of the enemy, to deal a ton of damage, also to buff the team. So pretty important if you're using this limited equipment. Then, Worshipper Lapis, another piece of limited equipment. Pretty pay to win, pretty expensive, I guess. But I'm just showing the options which you can replay with other options, with other F2P options. Only there's a ton of good F2P supporters, so just disregard this if you don't have it. But what's the benefit of using this? It increases the damage we deal because it debuffs the enemy. It's kind of a Momochi weapon effect. And it also increases the party's critical rate because it increases the critical rate of demons. So yeah, it's pretty useful for this specific build. We're using Onigumo and we're using Arabella. So, two F2P supporters, which are excellent. Let's say that you don't have this. You can use Sayaneo. You can use the big three and white, depending on what you're fighting. So those are options. You can use Hebiko. Honestly, there's a ton of things you can use. If you're using a machine type character, you can use Uraru. If you're using a demon type character, you can use Kirara. So, as usual. If you're using an assist, you can use New Year Felicia. Depends on what you pair with Astaroth. Now, for stats of the customs and stats of the stat training. Lastly, the main damage dealer. The main damage dealer, as you know, is Spinel. She is going to be using the Wicked Star weapon with Fire Magatamas to maximize the damage and also apply that burn that kind of repeats the damage. Then whatever weapon on the subslot, whatever Magatamas. 5 out of 5 and plus 15 both weapons. Then we have the Monicarp Detonate, the main damaging skill. Piercing Thirst and Crystal Burst. Crystal Shard Burst. These two are to buff, to gain attack buffs, and this one to deal devastating damage. You gain a ton of attack buffs. So yeah, it is pretty useful. Now, for supporters, we have that extremely limited Bride Anaro supporter, which, trust me guys, you want to get this whenever you have the chance, which is going to increase critical rate if we don't crit, but most importantly, is going to give us a 40% critical damage increase. And as you saw with the build, this is going to crit. And then we also have Kana, which is going to increase our damage based on the number of buffs. And remember that Anna Rose is going to give us a buff whenever we are inside of darkness. And Astaroth is not going to give us a buff, I think. No, she's not. And then we also have the Founding 3 on blue, because this one gives you damage increase, it makes you tankier, and most importantly, it has another temporary buff that increases critical damage by a ton. So let's see this. Stats of the customs, stat training max out, because this is Spinel, of course. And we're gonna do this on step 40, just because this is the step that I have right now. But it is going to be devastating. You can do this on step 100, no problem, guys. So, yeah, if you have the right supporters. I mean, yeah, we're using a ton of limited equipment. But for newer players, and I mentioned this is going to be most effective for newer players, you don't have to reach step 100. Like, if you're on step 20, 30, you're golden. That's super cool. If you're on step 10, that's also okay. But you're going to be able to take advantage of this set so that you crit, so that you use those easy to get green bills, or well, permanent green bills. So that's an option. Now, let's just obliterate the enemy, which is going to be extremely easy. Unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult to test the full capabilities of this set within a week. So yeah, we'll have to wait. As you can see, a ton of crits, a ton of guaranteed crits. And look at the huge AoE of this skill. It was a big, like big medium size, but now it's big. And I like it, I love it. Unfortunately, even though the duration is increased, it still has that flaw. The cooldown, it's too long. Yeah, my Astaroth is critting a lot, I tell you. And you see, we get buffs if we are within darkness. So we just demolish everything, and yeah, those Espinel crits are doing magic, you know? So yeah, pretty easy, pretty simple, except for the fact that it has a ton of limited gear. But if I had to change this for a more F2P approach, well, I could commit to just changing Anna Rose. In that case, depending on your performance, you can add a healer, like Lapis or Felicia, depending on the enemy, because Lapis is going to be the best, but Felicia is not always going to be effective. You could go, if you have the candy cane, you can go with Ragnarok or Ingrid. Let's say that you don't have any kind of special equipment. So the best option would be just to go with Lapis, because she has the SR anti-demon. So I would equip Lapis. And there's different things that you can do, but my recommendation with this particular beer would be to go green. Why green Lapis? Let's say that we put this anti-demon here, and it has attack, mega damage, everything that's supposed to, and we use moral boost. On green is going to give an additional attack buff, which is going to help Spinel a lot. Gem support, and we use Gem Spear Shower to deal damage. So in that case, what would I equip? If I went red, I would just equip Misaki if we are doing BR, because basically this is where you're gonna use this seasonal set. Not on, I mean, it's gonna help out a little bit on Total War, but not that much. You can equip your Hisui if you want and if you can, but we can go with something like, no, she's Protect and she's Demon, so she's not gonna be able to use these two. But she can equip Torajiro to increase damage, and she can equip, honestly, I would go with a defensive supporter, preferably. Like, we have Yukikaze. The best option, of course, is gonna be Hisui. There's also Corporate Ingrid, Punisher, Yukikaze, yeah. Also, this limited Kirara, if you were able to get some copies of this. So whatever you can equip is gonna be good enough, trust me. Um, yeah, honestly, I would go with something like this, if possible, guys. You want that damage reduction. And if you cannot, oh well. You have to kind of, because that's the benefit of going green. If you cannot, you can just go with blue, because blue has a ton of good options and F2P options for a defensive build, like Nana with Lilim, with Sakuya, or also you can equip Akina. Honestly, Arabella. Blue is the super easy build, and you want to use the corresponding pure color skill next to gem support to heal the party, and moral boost to give either defense or attack. And the boost and the buff is going to help out Spinel. So yeah, perhaps this was extensive, but it is a difficult seasonal set to showcase, because this can only be shown on content where there's a team. You should not ever try to use this on solo content, because while the weapon is usable, yeah, it's nice and usable for red, the supporter, it's awful for solo content, because you only gain up to right now up to 12% either damage increase or critical rate. No, in this case it would be critical rate if I'm using Astaroth. Depends on who you're equipping it, but honestly, it's better to use any other F2P supporter if you're going on solo content. So yeah, guys, that's about it. I mean, you can do any kind of combinations. Let me know in the comments what combinations you're going to use with this supporter, and if you're excited about Mirabelle, because she's probably going to be a machine type character, most likely, and that would be amazing because she would be able to be paired with Astaroth. So I'll read you in the comments, and I'll be seeing you next time. Bye.